Gosh, this is one of my favorite stories, so I've probably told you before, but hang in there. So a doctor, a lawyer, and an engineer have been sentenced to death. And they're lined up to be executed by guillotine. Do you wish to face the blade or look away? The henchman asks the doctor. The doctor bravely replies, I will face the blade. The henchman places his neck in the guillotine, raises the blade, and it falls to a point inches above the doctor's neck and stops. The assembled crowd buzzes excitedly. This is obviously a sign from God, says the king. You are pardoned. The lawyer, not to be outdone, also chooses to face the blade. Down it falls, and once again it stops inches from the man's throat. Again, the crowd gasps, and again, the king sees it as a divine intervention and pardons the man. The final prisoner is the engineer. And he too decides to face the blade. He fits his neck into the crook of the guillotine and looks up. The executioner reaches to pull the cord when the engineer points to the pulley system and yells, wait, stop! I think I see the problem. I live with an engineer. So why are we laughing? Isn't it because we identify? Isn't there an engineer in each one of us?
Yes.
There certainly isn't me, which is great unless it runs amok.
Yes.
You know that tendency to overanalyze, overthink, and work really, really hard to fix all the things we think are wrong. Yeah, sometimes our myopic focus causes us to lose sight of the big picture, you might say. So I heard Keith loud and clear. And I know that some of you have been going through things this Christmas season. Pain, loss, loneliness, shortage of money, houses still not repaired, transitions. If so, it's possible that you're not much in the mood for a talk on joy, right? For some, the Christmas season brings up memories that hurt. Some of us carry pictures in our minds of what the perfect Christmas morning should be like, what the perfect family looks like, and since ours doesn't seem to quite measure up, we just can't seem to get into that holiday spirit. So my question for us all today is it possible that joy could be a decision? A decision that is not dependent on conditions. Perhaps joy is more than a feeling. Perhaps it's a way of looking at the world from the inside out. I don't mean to be insensitive or suggest any oversimplified pie-in-the-sky ideas. They really bug me. But one of the teachers I really like is Bob Proctor. And he wrote a little booklet called Decision. It really got me to thinking. Bob's teaching is that the road to abiding joy, which he calls prosperity, by the way, begins with a decision. Not the kind you glibly throw out whenever you're fed up with some situation or condition, you know, like the New Year's resolutions a lot of us make. Not the kind that begins with a statement, tomorrow or next week or as soon as. No, I'm talking about the kind of decision that rises up out of some deep well of strength inside. The Daily Word told us that today. I'm talking about the kind of joy that has no loopholes or back doors. Consider this for a minute. Perhaps your pain or problem does not need to go away. Perhaps it's okay for it to remain in the background, reminding you of someone you loved deeply and lost, or a time in your life that has passed, but for which you're deeply grateful. So I wonder, can joy coexist with pain? Can it stand underneath, beyond the discomfort and the discontent too? I believe it can. I believe that one of the most amazing things about being human is our ability to deeply feel our sadness and at the very same time look out on the world with joy. Right, Keith? Mm-hmm. Joy is a gift that gradually lands and expands in our hearts when we practice the art of appreciation as Keith did this morning. Appreciation. Now this is a deep heart word. For me, it speaks of slowing down to savor the good that's right in front of our faces. Appreciation could be described as positive presence, the art of being with ourselves, being with the people we love, being with our surroundings and taking it all in and letting it nourish us. We live in a society that is driven by discontent. No matter what we have, something better is just on the other side of the fence, right? So we're always kind of eager to move on to the next exciting or interesting thing. And when that doesn't happen as quickly as we think it ought to happen, we sort of say, well, something must be wrong. I'm remembering, I was working on this, a little tiny moment that happened with my grandson, Matthew, years ago. So he's 12 years old, and he is already an outstanding athlete. On a particular Saturday, he and his team had just played a terrific game of baseball. All their hard work had paid off, and they had won over a really tough team, and Matt had even hit a home run. But the minute that game was over, Matt raced off the field, jumped in the car, and his folks and I, struggling close behind as we could. But we were all gushing at Matt, thrilled by the game, congratulating him on doing such a great job. And I remember how it stung a little bit when Matt just brushed our praise off with a casual thanks. And by the way, could you stop and drop me off at my friend Joe's house on the way home? Not even 2 minutes was spent savoring his accomplishment. Thanks. That's it. And immediately on to the next thing. It was such a small, everyday moment, but for some reason it really got my attention, and I pondered on that, and I realized that I tended to do the very same thing. Let a special moment or a word of appreciation just bounce right off of me without letting it penetrate my heart. And you, Cindy, call me on it about once a month, I'd say. Right. This Christmas, my wish for all of us is that we could practice what Heart Math Institute calls freeze frame. The art of the poignant pause to notice and savor the joy of the moment. The satisfaction of knowing we've done our best. It's a big one. The pleasure of being with people we care about. The beauty that's absolutely everywhere. Even the peace of being exhausted at the end of a day well spent. How I'd love to learn to do this more of the time. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. I was particularly thinking of women, of course, and I was thinking of, okay, suppose our husband or our friend has invited us out to dinner. And we've worked really hard at looking good, We have a new outfit, it's a good hair day. And we walk into the restaurant, and our friend's eyes light up just a little bit, and they say, "Wow, you look great." And we say, "Thanks," and immediately change the subject. Couldn't there have been a pause right there? Where you breathe in appreciation? Couldn't there have been a hug or some loving eye contact? Couldn't we take a moment to breathe in how good it feels to look our best and be with someone who appreciates us? What if we even were to, God forbid, tell them how much the appreciation means to us? Just a moment, that's all. But what a great start to an evening out, right? It's so odd what our minds do. Oh, she's just saying that to be polite. Or what does he know? I know I've gained 5 pounds. Or hope this top isn't too tight. Or if you're in partnership with somebody, oh sure, he's being nice now, but you should have heard him an hour ago. I know you know what I mean. Some way or other, our analytical, judgmental thoughts rob us of the joy of the moment. It's like we have a self-saboteur inside, and we're like recovering addicts say, better get out of your head. Don't you know it's a really bad neighborhood? Perhaps this short piece from the great Hindu classic, the Tao Te Ching, will resonate for you the way it does for me. Let me ask you something, it says. Do you want to be happy? Then stop trying to improve things, including your son, daughter, husband, partner, friends, and neighbors. They don't need improving or saving. They are fine just as they are, and their lives are in perfect order, just the way they need to be for them to learn the next thing they came here to learn. God is present to things and people just as they are, to you too, just the way you are. Have you noticed? God is not trying to change the world. God is content to let the world evolve. If it's good enough for God, seems like it could be good enough for you. So there's this little girl named Sally, and she's all dressed up, and she's running to church as fast as she can so she won't be late for Sunday school, and she's running and she's praying. Dear God, don't let me be late. Don't let me be late. Please don't let me be late. All of a sudden she trips over a curb and falls and tears her dress, and without missing a beat she jumps up and starts running again, and as she runs she prays, dear God, please don't let me be late. Don't let me be late. And please, don't trip me again either. Sally is so worried about being late, Sally's. She is not present in the moment. And then she has a mishap and blames God for it and goes right on not being present. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. So God is going to keep her from being late. Of course, not the fact that she started out late. God's going to trip her if she falls, and now it's God's responsibility again to see that she's not late. There's a wonderful article by theologian Richard Rohr called The Second Breath. In it, he uses the example of the time he stubbed his toe hard while hurrying up the steps. On the first moment, his reaction was, ouch! It was actually worse than that, but I'm not sharing it here. And he thinks, why did this have to happen right now when I'm in such a hurry? Such a human reaction. But in the second breath, something's different. And it's the second breath that Rohr says makes the difference. On the second breath, there is gratitude. Oh, thank you, universe, for getting my attention in such a benign way. I was not present. I could have fallen. I could have had a serious accident. This is so real for me. I've talked to some of you about the time about a year ago when I got a speeding ticket. The young cop stopped me and asked, as they always do you know how fast you were going? And I said, not at all. I was on the phone. And he said, oh, the phone. We exchanged a look that was full of recognition. I had been driving 70 miles an hour with my mind somewhere else altogether. And I got to tell you, I received that ticket with gratitude. The universe had intervened and lifted me, and perhaps others, out of a fairly dangerous situation. Whatever the amount of the ticket, it seemed like a small price to pay. The young cop and I made a real connection right then, and I thanked him sincerely. I'm sure he sees his job as that of keeping people safe, and he had done his job well. Can you imagine that there was joy present in that shared moment? Not your everyday speeding ticket experience, right? We've all had painful moments of upset. In all our humanity, we deeply feel that irritation or sadness or loss. But on the second breath, we can expand our view. Something else is going on here, something way beyond the pain, something beautiful and whole and rich. That idea has supported me through the last couple of weeks. So much to think and do that at times I was kind of stressed out. And then while driving down some neighborhood street or other, I would suddenly wake up and see the beautiful lights on the houses and hear the carols on the radio. And it was as though a fog lifted and there came a deep breath of awareness and gratitude and peace. Perhaps our purpose on this earth is to learn to be joyful. One of my favorite pieces of music is the wedding song written by none other than Don Henley of the Eagles. It's a prayer he wrote for his own wedding. I don't know if you know it. But one of its most poignant lines is, to want what we have and take what we're given with grace. For this I pray on our wedding day. To want what we have and take what we're given with grace. To me, that's appreciation. That's positive presence. And that's how I want to walk through the world. When we're awake to how prosperous we really are, joy is natural. And from this place, we become available to be used as God's instrument. Joy makes us energetic and positive and clear-eyed, and people can feel this energy, which makes us walking, talking demonstrations. We're always walking, talking demonstrations of some sort. Some people may be curious and they want to know what in the world we're so happy about. Okay. They may wonder how they can get what we have. It's interesting how here we call Jesus the way shower. Well, guess what? We're way showers also. Remember the story in Scripture about the blind man? When the Pharisees, trying to trip Jesus up, asked, why was this man born blind? Did he sin or did his parents sin? And remember what Jesus replied? He said, neither he nor his parents sinned. The man was born blind so that the glory of God could be seen through him. This is an amazing truth. We don't have to be psychologists or engineers. We don't have to go around all day investigating, analyzing, protesting, or fixing things. All we have to do is stay awake and notice the abundance we're wading around in and allow our appreciation and joy to bubble up. I was talking to a good friend not too long ago, been through a long and serious illness this year. And during the course of the illness, she had literally had to drop out of her life. She couldn't work, couldn't keep track of her teenagers, couldn't take care of her husband, didn't even have the energy to socialize with friends. She told me something really profound about what she discovered during that time. She realized that the world kept on turning. The work at the office got done without her. The kids did fine, even found their own rides to basketball practice. Her husband somehow survived. Her friends left her alone. The world, her world, kept turning without her being in charge or even doing her part. So then what difference does it make that we're here? Well, I don't suppose it makes much difference who drives the kids to basketball practice. What does make a difference is showing up with the light of Christ shining through us. Then we are all the difference. Instead of being just a chauffeur or a cook or a moneymaker or a manager, we become proof that joy is possible in this imperfect world. We are examples for our kids and our grandkids that they may even want to emulate. Wasn't it Will Rogers, I think it was, who said, "Who you are speaks so loudly I can't hear what you're saying"? Our sadness is sacred. So is our longing and our loneliness. And yet, the time for joy is now. Now is the time when we realize that what we're hungering for is sitting right beside us. Look around this room. Do you see abundance? I do. Do you feel the energy? I do. I love this poem from Hafiz, a 13th century Sufi poet. From the 13th century, interesting. And he writes, "Now is the time to know that all you do is sacred. So why not consider a lasting truce with yourself and God? Now is the time to understand that all your ideas of right and wrong were just like child's training wheels to be laid aside when we're ready to live with veracity and love." Hafiz is a divine envoy on whom the beloved has written a holy message. My dear, please tell me, why do you still throw sticks at your heart and at God? What is it in that sweet voice inside that incites you to such sadness and fear? Now is the time for you to know that your every thought and action is sacred. Now is the time for you to compute the impossibility that there is anything but grace. Now is the season for you to know that everything around you is holy. I think so. So I'm going to suggest that we all take a break. Let's depart from that irritating bad neighborhood inside our heads. How about we make like groundhogs, sticking our heads up out of whatever hole we've dug ourselves into and taking a good long look around. See, smell, taste, hear, feel. Taste the food. Smell your bath lotion. Feel the warm shower water running down your back. Really look at the person sitting across the table from you. Breathe in the fresh air and bask in the sunshine. And at the end of the day, snuggle into your bed and love the luxurious comfort. Savor the abundance we're all just literally floating in, and let it fill us up with joy. The most wonderful Christmas gift we could ever give to ourselves, our loved ones, and our world is joy. God bless you all.